Hello everyone. Recap real quick. Last time we met, we talked about the tree of life. We talked about how it draws relationships to our oldest common ancestor, and it's kind of like a family tree. And we took some notes here and we identified the 6 main kingdoms of life. So Archaebacteria was 1, Eubacteria was 2, Protista was 3, fungi was 4, and then of course the animal and plant kingdom. The plant kingdom was 5, and the animal kingdom was 6. So you're going to need this for the next page that you're going to work on. So remember that they had to classify all life, which was huge, and as they made discoveries and got microscopes, they realized there was lots of different kinds of things that were living. And they worked hard to classify these. So we have these 6 main kingdoms now. Okay? So please take those notes before we move back. And now we're going to look at answering the questions on the next page. Remember in the video it talked about, well, how do you know something is alive? Can you remember any of the things from that video? It made some very specific distinctions about something that is living versus not living. When we look at a rock, we know that the rock is not alive, but these are some of the main distinctions. So please write this in your notes. Made of cells with DNA inside, reproduces, and it needs energy. Okay, so these are the basics of what you're going to write down for how you know if something is alive. How are living things different from each other? So looking at page 4, think about how are those things different from each other? They're going to differ in a lot of ways. They're going to differ in their characteristics and traits. That could be shape, size, habits, ability, different characteristics. Why are living things different from one another? Looking at page 4. And it's because, and we'll talk more about this later in this class, they are adapted to different environments. So you are going to adapt differently in a cold environment than a warm environment, depending on the types of things you have to access to eat. And we'll talk more about evolution and adaptation later in this class. So I want you to look, using the tree of life, write down the name of each of the 6 kingdoms of the table below, and name 2 characteristics. So what is a characteristic? A characteristic is a trait or a feature. Think about what's your favorite trait or feature of yourself. It can be physical. It can be a personality trait. Are you kind to everyone you meet? Are you very helpful? Things like that. So as you go through, I want you to go ahead and name the 6 kingdoms and then look it up and then look up on Google some of the characteristics, okay? Some differences you might learn about, or if the cell has a nucleus or the cell does not have a nucleus. So nucleus or no nucleus, you should look for that or does it have a cell wall? These are some of the main things you're going to be looking for. So cell no nucleus or cell with nucleus. Let me draw real quick what that can look like. So all cells have DNA, right? So this is the way we might just draw. Whoops, sorry. This is going to be your DNA. My picture's not great. So go ahead and draw these on this page, these notes here, DNA. So this is a cell. Sorry, this is kind of hard. A cell with no nucleus. Please, you can write it smaller and neater, hopefully. I'm struggling with this here. No nucleus. Woo. as opposed to a cell with a nucleus, which would look like this. You draw the same circle with the same, we know that DNA kind of makes a double helix, but that's kind of hard to draw, so we're just going to draw this ladder looking thing. Okay, so this is DNA. And then you're going to draw this circle around it. Sorry, that's not great. Indicating a cell wall. Okay, so this would be the cell with the nucleus. Or not the cell wall, but with the nucleus. So cell, and we'll talk a lot more about this later with, I'm just going to do W, nucleus. So as you fill this in using the page before, so number 1 should be archaea bacteria, and you're going to Google what are characteristics of that. Does it have a cell wall? Does it have a nucleus? So that's what you're going to write on this page. Sorry, my notes are taking a while. Here we go. Okay, so you should be able to finish this page, and when you're done, you're going to move on to the notes on constants, controls, and variables.